Well, growing up, I wanted to be Travis Pastrana. And to this day, if you asked me if there was one person that I could spend an entire day with, like anyone on earth, it would be Travis Pastrana. If you don't know, Travis is an action sports innovator, icon, and legend who is basically the sole reason why the phrase "he on X Games mode" even exists. Like, this man epitomizes that phrase to the core. And that all is my definition, by the way. That's not Google's. I didn't look that up because we're focusing on the ungooglables in this series, The Big Question. So naturally, I thought Travis was awesome, and I still do. And I spent a lot of my teen years idolizing him and honestly just wishing I was him. Like living vicariously through him almost, right? Like, he's tall, skinny, and white, so I'm like, me too. But that's like where our commonalities stop, right? I think we all probably have someone like this in our lives or that we know of, right? Where we look at them and it's like, you see their life and it's like, you see that? That is what I'm going for. Like, that person that's me, just in another life, right? Who is that for you? Don't say it out loud, but who is that? Get them in your brain. Maybe it's this person who's so confident in their skin, and you're just like, I just wish I was that confident in my skin. Or maybe it's someone who's great at an instrument, or someone who has more subs on their YouTube or their Twitch than there are like citizens in the United States, and you're like, why can't that just be me? I want the endorsements. So Travis is sponsored by Red Bull. Do you know how cool that would be for me? It'd probably be bad for us. I'd never shut up. But these people that we look up to, they kind of cause us to look into ourselves a little bit too and ask questions like, what am I doing? Like, Travis is a little bit older than me, and he's done so much in his life. And I'm like, what am I doing? You ever see someone who's like your age and they're just doing stuff that's insane and you're like, well, I'm a waste? You feel like that? Or there's like this thought that comes into your brain of like, what's the point of me even trying? Like, what do I even have to offer society or culture? I think we can tend to look at other people and we compare ourselves, and then we start to feel small and insignificant, and we start to kind of feel like nobody by comparison. And our little question, who am I looking up to, becomes the big question. That's our focus for tonight. Who am I? Period. Who am I? What's my identity, right? Because identity is what makes us us. And I'm not talking about gender or sexual identity. I'm not talking about artist or musician or athlete, mathlete, nerd, whatever. I'm not talking about these things that we can identify as. I mean, these things, they're part of our identity, right? They're part of what make us us. They're part of what make us unique, but they're not who we are. People say, I'm gay. Well, it's like, that might be true, but that's not all of you. That's not everything that you are. There's more to it than that. My encouragement for us tonight out of the gate is just don't put a limit on your identity. Don't put a cap on your identity, right? I forgot that was there. We're going to look in the Gospel of John. So if that's where we're going to be tonight. Flip open your Bibles to the Gospel of John, chapter 6. The New Testament goes Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And in John chapter 6, there is this kid who probably felt pretty limited as well. His identity, he felt limited in that. I would imagine as he compared himself with other people, it would seem like he was falling short. He probably felt insignificant in society, but all four Gospels mention what we're about to talk about tonight. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and that's rare, but it's because it is so important. This is, by the way, a true historical event seen by thousands of eyewitnesses, okay? This isn't some fairy tale. It's not some made up, just mythical story. This is actual historical fact that happened. And I want us to have that in the back of our brain as we dive into John chapter 6, starting in verse 1. Y'all can just read along with me. Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias, and a large crowd followed him because they had seen the miraculous signs he had done among the sick. So Jesus went up a mountain and he sat there with his disciples, or his followers, these guys who were walking with him. Now it was nearly time for Passover, this Jewish festival, and Jesus looked up and he saw the large crowd coming toward him, and he asked Philip, one of his followers, "Where are we going to buy food to feed all these people?" Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. All right, Philip replied, "Jesus, more than half a year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to have even a little bit." He's like, "Jesus, this is an impossible thing to feed and accommodate all of these people. It's not going to happen." And in verse 8, one of his disciples, Andrew, who was Peter's brother, and remember, Andrew and Peter were among the first that Jesus called. We talked about them last week. These are the guys who listened to the call of Jesus, like I hope we are. Jesus is calling us. He's calling you, and just like he called Peter and Andrew. And then they left their old life behind. They dropped their nets. They started following Jesus, and they're learning along the way. That same thing can be true for us, right? And this is what happens when we do that. This is what happens when we listen and we leave and we learn. This is the kind of stuff that you'll get to see. So Andrew, it says this in verse 8, a youth, has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And he's like, "But what good is that for a crowd like this?" He's like, "I got a little bit, but this little kid's got some, but it's not going to make a difference." You ever felt like that? I got a little bit, Jesus, but it doesn't matter. I'm not Travis freaking Pastrana, okay?
Some of this audio file was lost due to a technological malfunction. Thank you for your grace as we get back to the message, and we apologize for the inconvenience.
To those who were sitting there, he did the same with the fish, and each person got as much as they wanted. I just want to say something. Have you ever been to a buffet? When you get as much as you want, not as they needed, as they wanted, all right? That is a significant multiplication. He did the same with the fish, as much as they wanted. When they had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, gather up the leftover pieces. There was leftovers, so that nothing will be wasted. So they gathered them up, 12 baskets. There was more at the end than there was even at the beginning, with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. When the people saw that Jesus had done a miraculous sign, they said, "This truly is the prophet who is coming into the world." Jesus is not some myth. He's not made up. This is a true historical, actual event that happened. Thousands of people saw it, and they were so convinced of its reality. The fact that it wasn't just a magic trick, right? He wasn't just fooling people. This actually happened, so much so they were ready to make him their king. But Jesus was like, I'm not trying to be king of this group of people, of this nation, of this place. I'm trying to be the King of Kings. He had a bigger plan that they didn't know about. Jesus did something in this moment, though, that only he could. He did a lot with a little. And who brought the little? Who brought the little? It was this little kid, probably a student like you guys, one of your age, right? He had no special talents that we know of. Right? He was not from wealth. He was not from privilege. He wasn't set up for greatness. He was probably very unsuspecting. He was socially and culturally discounted. There was no reason that this kid should have been used for greatness. But Jesus sees something different than what society sees, right? You know what? What little he brought, it was enough. It was enough. In fact, as we read, it was more than enough. And I want us to relate to the kid. Because when it feels like you don't have enough, Jesus says, "Bring it to me, and let's see what not you can do, but let's see what we can do." Can I say something a little bit controversial? Yeah? Silence is permission. All right. You are not enough. You're not. On your own, you're not enough. Like even Jesus' disciples, the ones who were following Jesus when he was walking around on earth, were like, Jesus, we can't do this. I don't even know what to do. We don't have enough. But culture today is so affirming, and I kind of like it. It's just nice and cute when people are like, you are enough just how you are. You perfect just how you are. You don't need to change a thing. You're a king. You're a queen. Slay hunty. Like people, that's nice. But it's not true. The truth is, we're not all right. We're not good. Inherently, we're broken. We're messed up. We need help. We can't do it, right? There is something wrong. We need a rescue. We need a savior. We cannot feed the crowds what they want. If we try on our own, we will die trying. It'll be so exhausting, you'll run yourself into the ground because you can't do on your own what only Jesus can. The truth is, we're not enough, but Jesus is. We can never do enough, but Jesus can. Jesus can take your not enough and he can turn it into more than enough, but it is only by him and through him that can ever happen. So if you're exhausted, if you're caught in this comparison trap, if you're constantly feeling like, I can't do it, I'm a failure, I'm not enough, Jesus is. Jesus is. I want us to hear something, right, as we finish up. Some of us are trying so hard to be enough. There's someone in our life, or, parent, step-parent, some guy, some girl, some group of people at school, and we're trying to impress them because we want this validation. We want to feel loved. And God put that in you. Like, we were created to love and to be loved, to know and to be known. And we are trying so hard to do that, to accomplish that, to earn that. But listen, Jesus, you don't have to earn it with him. You've already got it with him, and he's the creator and the sustainer of the entire universe. You don't have to prove yourself to him because he already proved himself to the entire world whenever he was put in the ground for 3 days after dying for you on a cross and then raising again and beating death and saying, I'm on your team. That's what he said to the kid. That's what he's saying to us. He says, you matter, even if everyone else says you don't. He's saying, what you have is enough because I'm going to make it enough. You can't, but he can. Like with this little kid, what you have, it's just not enough to get the job done, to gain the approval and to gain the validation, and it never will be. But what he can do with it is, so will you bring it to him? Will you bring what you have to Jesus? It's okay if it feels like not much. It's okay if you're a mess. It's okay if you have struggles. It's okay if you have sinned in just what feels like the most unforgivable ways imaginable. Jesus says, bring it to me because I can do a lot with a little. What the world says is failure. What the world writes off. When people look at you and they make fun of you, Jesus says, no. I'm going to elevate you. I'm going to do amazing, mighty things through you. And people are telling this kid's story thousands of years later. What are they going to say about you? Are people going to get fed because of you? Bread? Not barley. I'm talking about the bread of life, Jesus. Is he shining through you? You can shine. You can shine, but it's not you. It's Christ in you.
Thank you for listening to the Legacy Church Student Ministry Podcast. To learn more about our mission, meeting times, and more, please follow us on Instagram @legacy_students. If you were encouraged by this message, please subscribe, rate us, and consider sharing our channel with a friend. Available anywhere you get podcasts.